Elite Expert Insider, the podcast that educates, inspires, and motivates you to take your business and life to the next level. We would like to thank Audible for supporting Elite Expert Insider. Please go to the link bit.ly/Elite Audible. That's bit.ly/Elite Audible and get a free 30-day trial to show your support. Thank you, Audible. Now to Elite Expert Insider for conversations with industry leaders. Hey everyone, it's Melanie Johnson and Jen Foster for another version of our podcast, Elite Expert Insider. We're so glad to have you here today. We want to remind you to share the podcast, like the podcast, and please leave us your comments. We would love to hear from you. Love to hear any questions you have about our interviews or about Elite Online Publishing and learning to publish your own book. So we have a really special guest here today. We have Bob Donnell. I have known Bob, Jen and I've both known Bob for about 6-7 months now. And one of the things I love about him is whenever I message him is the question he gives me back. He always says, what is the most fantastic thing that's happening to you this week? And not everyone, I mean, I think that's such a great question. People are just, how are you? What's going on? I just love that question. So Bob is a results expert, but he didn't start out that way. He had a really interesting journey, and he has written 2 books. He's written 30 Days to the Next Level, and he's also has another book. His newest book out is Mastering Your Inner Game. And we're really going to talk about that today, about what is your inner game and how to get into the inner game and make the most of who you are. So Jen, I want you to say hi real quick to everybody.
Hey guys, good to have you here, Bob.
Good to be here.
So Bob, tell us a little bit, I mean, how did you get from where you started in life to becoming a transformational expert?
Well, I mean, you know, the journey, we all have a story, and that's what you two are masters at, is helping people tell their story and get it published. My story really begins, I was being raised by a single mom, never knowing my dad. Don't know anything about him, so there was no way to track him down. But my mom, when I was 15, was diagnosed with cancer, and she was given 6 months to live. And I remember shortly thereafter, I didn't connect all the dots until later in life, but I remember shortly thereafter a gentleman asking me, hey, what are you going to be when you grow up? And I remember thinking at 15, that was kind of a strange question to be asked. And I said, why? I don't know, but why are you asking? And he says, well, because Bob, you can learn a product, you can learn a service, you can learn an industry, or you can learn one thing that will make you successful in any product, service, or industry. And I said, what's that? And he said, human behavior. He said, Bob, if you understand human behavior, you understand why somebody does or doesn't do something, you understand why people make the decisions that they do. He goes, Bob, you can be successful in anything that you do in life. And I said, sign me up. That's what I want to do. And so I became really a great student at that point of understanding human behavior. At 15, I became a peer counselor, working with teens, my peers, teens that were going through struggles, maybe drugs, parent situations, things like that. And I remember during that time that I thought I was, giving back, like I was doing something for them, which there was a part of that, but really it was really emotionally cathartic for me. And it was a great experience. But fast forward a couple of years, my mom died. She lived 2 years instead of 6 months. And so I'm 17 in a senior year in high school, and she passes away. And I start working with some kids that I'm doing peer counseling still with. And at 19, there's a young man that I'm working with, and his dad was an attorney. And his dad one day calls me to his office and says, hey, I need you to come in and talk to me. And I don't know about you, but at 19, you're getting called by an attorney to come to his office. I was a little apprehensive, to say the least. And I was a little worried. I thought, what did I do wrong, And he goes, I just want you to sit down. He goes, I just want you to know you're doing a great job. And what I want to do is I want to encourage you to play a bigger game. Now, at 19, I'm thinking, what's a bigger game look like? And he said, you need to file a 501c3 nonprofit organization, start working with kids on a bigger scale, start, speaking and raising funds and getting a board of directors. I'm like, whoa. Well, that was one of the greatest things. And what he taught me was about borrowed credibility, that he could be that focal point and allow people the freedom to participate in this program. So I ran that organization, had a board of directors, a psychologist, psychiatrist, marriage, family therapist, sergeant of narcotics for LA County PD, attorney. It was such a great experience because I learned in 4 or 5 years, I learned the PhD in business, a PhD in counseling, psychology, everything else. Because what happened was my board of directors, psychologists, psychiatrists, they said, we'll work with any of your kids for free. We'll work with any of the families for free, providing you're willing to sit in on every session.
Wow.
What a great education. I mean, one, they wanted me to know what was being said so that I could support it outside of the office. Two, they wanted me to learn. And it was such a great education. And so since that point, I've just really been just really a great student of going, why does somebody do something they do or behave the way they do? And fast forward 18 years later, or 18 years ago, I had a daughter killed in a car accident that I witnessed, and kind of shook my foundation, obviously, and changed everything I was doing. Instead of going out and consulting and working and training and speaking and taking jobs from one thing to the other, I decided I want to just really focus on teaching people that who you are is more important than what you do. And so from that, I founded Everything Next Level. And what we did was we started creating programs, courses, products, opportunities for people to really understand how do you get to your next level, both personally and professionally. And the premise, the foundation piece of that is your psychology or your inner game.
So getting to the next level is all about psychology and your inner game and your outer game, or what is the difference between that inner game and outer game? Great
question. The inner game is, when I say inner game, most people go, oh, mindset. Okay, I get it. Inner game is so much more inclusive than mindset. Mindset is a percentage, a small percentage of what your inner game is. Your inner game is everything that makes you up who you are today. This is the best way to say it. Inner game is everything that makes you up who you are today. All your past experiences, all your belief systems, all your personal constitution, all your values, all of your physiology, your emotions, your everything, including your psychology. Oh, and that little piece called your mindset, that's a piece of your inner game. When you create an inner game, it is the foundation. And your inner game, this is one of the foundational principles of it, is your inner game must be strong enough to support the actions required for the result desired. So you say, I want to become a top salesperson in an organization. You say, I want to become a best-selling author. You say, I want to do this. That's great. But if you don't have a psychology, if you don't have an inner game that supports the actions required to do that, you won't do it. It doesn't matter the training. It doesn't matter the mentor. It doesn't matter anything. If your psychology or your inner game does not support that, you won't do it. So your inner game must be strong enough to support the actions required for the result that you desire.
So how do you set up your inner game to win that battle with yourself? What are some key things that we should be doing to set that inner game up to be successful and to win?
Yeah, great question. The number one thing that you have to do is you have to understand that there's what I've outlined in the book, Mastering Your Inner Game. There's 7 pillars for mastering your inner game. And we don't have time, obviously, to go through all 7, but I'll give you a couple of them. One is you have to realize what commitment looks like to you. So pillar 1 is commitment. Because without a commitment or with a less than commitment, you will get less than results. So one of the principles of being committed, it looks like, what does commitment look like to you? For example, for me, I remember when my mom was dying, and I remember I was about 16, maybe 17, and I got up in the middle of the night, and I saw her sitting on the porch, and she was crying. And I remember thinking, what's wrong? And so I went in, and I used to have to give her morphine shots in the middle of the night. I thought, well, I'd already given her a shot. And I said, Mom, are you okay? And she goes, yeah. And I said, well, what's going on? I mean, are you in pain? She goes, no. And I said, well, Mom, are you afraid of dying? And she said, no. She goes, Bobby, I know where I'm going. And I said, well, what's going on? Why are you crying? And she says, well, Bobby, he goes, I'm afraid that I won't be here to see you graduate high school. And I remember thinking at even 17 or 16 and a half, 17 years old, I remember thinking, holy cow, you're in pain, you're going through chemo, you're dying, it's bleak. And your biggest concern is being here for me when I graduate high school? And I thought, wow, that was commitment to me. And when I look at things like that, or I look at, other instances of people setting an example of commitment, all I have to do is, and in the pillar of commitment and mastering your inner game, one of the things I do is I say, when you want to achieve something, and you give effort, ask yourself, first, what does commitment look like to you? What does it feel like? What is the emotional currency that it creates for you? What does that look like? Now ask yourself, yesterday, if I was being gauged on just my commitment level, does it look anything like that? And if not, then I have to either raise my standard and do better, or I need to decrease what I'm expecting. It's kind of like the guy who goes out to buy a Ferrari, but he's only got $5,000.
Right.
He either needs to settle for less than a Ferrari, or he needs to raise his capital because he's got to be able to achieve what he wants to set out. And if not, he needs to understand that he's going to have to settle for less. I'm not a fan of settling for less. So I'm always about raising our currency, raising our capital, personally, relationally, all of that, and helping us. So commitment is the beginning focal point and the beginning pillar of mastering your inner game. If you don't understand your commitment level and what it's going to take to get there, you won't achieve it no matter what.
I really like how you said you have to assess that and do that assessment and say, did I do all those things today? You know?
Yeah.
Did I meet that level?
Yeah.
And in that bar and going, okay, then I need to do this different, this different, this different.
Right. And it's okay to say, okay, look, I didn't measure up yesterday. But then you can't expect the result that what commitment looks like. You can't expect that result. So you say, okay, I'm willing to settle for less, or I'm willing to raise my standard.
Mm-hmm.
Well, do you think part of it is what we tell ourselves? So part of that inner game and that commitment, sometimes we defeat ourselves saying, oh, well, I could never afford a Ferrari. I can never get that far. How important is that dialogue? And is the dialogue important for what we say to ourselves as well as maybe what we're having a dialogue with other people?
Absolutely. It's extremely important. And I think the dialogue we have with ourselves is even more important than the dialogue we have with other people. I think our dialogue with ourselves sets the tone for the kind of dialogue we have with other people most of the time. In mastering inner game, one of the pillars is mastering your dialogue, mastering your language. And it's really a simple process. It's about, is this process that I'm going through, the way I'm talking to myself, the way I'm feeling about myself, the way I'm emotionally managing my state, all of those things are part of it. But mastering your dialogue is so important. And so when we create a dialogue that says, I don't have to change immediately that I believe that I can, it's got to be a dialogue that can help me create a belief that I can. And I believe that a lot of times that dialogue helps us believe that we can or believe that we can't immediately. And if not managed, we will suffer the consequences of whatever that dialogue has been telling us.
It's so funny. I took my son who's getting ready to apply for college, and we went to this tutoring service, and they had him set goals for his ACT test. Now, like a perfect score, I think is like 38 or 36, something like that. And he's at 27. And he's like, well, Mom, if I can just get a 30. So she said, all right, your goal is a 30. And I'm like, why are you saying a 30? Why are you capping yourself? That now, his dialogue was just a 30 because I think that's all I could get. Well, then that is all you're going to get. Make your dialogue to say, I'm going to get a 34. I'm going to get a 35. Shoot for that. So we kind of went through that little process on a different level with my teenager to say, you're not telling yourself the right story, but it goes back to what you said. What was his inner belief of what he could achieve and what he was capable of, and not playing that bigger game like that attorney had told you, it's time to play a bigger game. And sometimes you don't believe in yourself enough to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, it doesn't matter what age we are, and it doesn't matter what the objective is that we're trying to reach. Mm-hmm. If we don't have a dialogue, and again, that's one of the 7 pillars. You create your inner game by these 7 pillars. Once you go through the 7 pillars, which I created on a video series, I created on a book, and I created as a one-day experience. So with those 3 avenues, you can come and create a master your inner game. And the focal point isn't that once you do it, it's over. It's like going to the gym. Just because you lose the 20 pounds and you have the 6-pack, it doesn't mean you get to eat like crap, and it doesn't mean you get to just never go to the gym again. It's a constant, consistent, and persistent basis. And so when we talk about mastering your inner game, it's not an ending. It's not an end in mind. It's actually saying, I know that this is consistent and persistent effort to make sure that I'm constantly being the absolute best version I possibly can be.
I love that. Well, and in your book, you talk about physiology. you talk about changing that. How do you do that? Is it just like going to the gym and working out, or what do you mean by changing your physiology?
Yeah, great point. Yeah, that's one of the other pillars of mastering your inner game. And physiology is as simple as it might be just like before I got on this call, I jumped up on my little trampoline. And I just jumped up and down for a little bit and just kind of got my physiology moving. It can be something as simple as that. The bottom line is I've worked with suicide prevention. I've worked with all kinds of people from every walk of life, professional athletes, celebrities to drug addicts. I mean, you name it. And the thing I've found is that I've never met anyone who goes into who can stay in a complete state of depression if we can engage them physiologically to some degree. Now, it may not move the scale that much, but we can definitely start moving the scale. So what I've constantly been trying to do is saying, if we could just, I'll give you a perfect example. I called a lady called me one day. She was coaching. She called me one day and she goes, hi, I'm calling for my call. And I said, great, how are you? And she goes, well, that's a loaded question. I'm like, loaded question? I just asked you how you're doing. What do you mean? She goes, well, my daughter tried to commit suicide yesterday. And I go, okay, did she succeed? She goes, well, no. And I said, then you should be over the moon, ecstatic, because somewhere near you probably somebody committed suicide and they succeeded. Mm-hmm. She went, oh. And I said, stand up. She goes, what? I said, stand up. She goes, okay. I said, I want you to stomp your feet. She said, why? I said, look, you don't ask the doctor why, you just do it. Stomp your feet. So she stomps her feet. I go, okay, lay the phone down, start clapping your hands. She starts clapping her hands. I said, now do jumping jacks. She does jumping jacks. I said, okay, now pick up the phone. She picks up the phone. I go, now, how you doing? She goes, well, I guess I'm okay. And I go, that's a hell of a lot better than it was when we first started the call. The bottom line is we have to get to the point where we do this automatically. It's got to be unconscious competence. And so part of that thing, it might be just doing 10 jumping jacks. It might be doing 5 sit-ups. It might be doing walk around the building. It might be, dancing. I don't care what it is, but something to physiologically engage our body. When we start breathing correctly and we start moving our body, we move from one state to another. Again, it might be just moving the needle a little bit, but I guarantee it begins the process of moving the needle so that we get better results.
I love that. Yeah, I went to Tony Robbins and he talked about that 2 millimeters. It's like that. Move the needle just a little bit. Yes. Even if you just did 5 jumping jacks, you'll feel way different. Or even just stand up, sit down 5 times, and you feel way different.
Absolutely. Tony is absolutely a master. He's brilliant.
That's amazing how just getting the blood moving in your body can totally change how you feel. It changes your oxygen level, changes everything.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I love that you asked her to stomp her feet. She was probably like, what? Why?
What are you doing?
So true.
One of the other things you talk about in your book is having great mentors and the people that you hang around. And we hear this. Not everybody hears it, so it's good to hear. I tell my kids this. Jen tells her kids this. You know, the top 5 people that you hang around, that's who you're going to become. Right. And but what if you have lousy friends, you have a lousy family, you're starting at ground zero? How do I find great people? I'm in a funk. You know, you start with that physiology, but how do you reach out when you're not feeling great and you don't have great people around you? How do you reach out and get a response to find those people?
Well, the first thing I'll challenge is the fact that the language that we use. So, for example, and this is just an example, the language that you used was that you're at ground zero. Well, we're never at ground zero. I mean, and when we're born, 5 minutes later, we're not at ground zero. We're not at birth. And so one of the things we have to do is change our language. That's mastering your language, right? Mastering your dialogue. And so creating a different language. So the language is, I get people to say, Bob, I failed in my business and now I'm starting all over. I'm ground zero. No, you're not. You have education, you have training, you have a deeper understanding than you ever had before in your life. You probably have some vendors, you probably have some resources, you probably have some people in your life. You're never at ground zero. So the first thing is to challenge the notion that you're starting at ground zero. The second thing is to say, well, who are the people in your life that have made the greatest impact? And then ask yourself, has it been for the better or for a detriment? Mm-hmm. And then find those that have made a betterment. Maybe they haven't always agreed with you. Maybe you haven't liked them. Maybe there's been some conflict, but maybe they've sharpened your saw. Maybe they've given you a little bit sharper edge. So start thinking about from that aspect. The second thing that, or the third thing that I constantly encourage people to do is start surrounding yourself with some different people. Now, what does that look like? Well, if I want to become successful in Olympics, going for the Olympics, I'm going to start surrounding myself with people who have done that. Ruben Gonzalez, some other people that I know that are have been there, done that. But I also surround myself with people who just have a greater training. So maybe they haven't been to the Olympics, but they know how to train. So I'm looking for that. But I'm looking for the people who model the behavior that I know that I need to have to get there. The fourth thing that I do is I'm constantly saying, who can I bring into my life right now that I can help make them better and that they will make me better? John Maxwell talks about that we're in an age of association. Never before has it ever been as important to be associated with people of influence. And so whether we're associated with them because we're doing business with them or associated because we attended a function with them and we became, connected, whatever it is, can we start putting ourselves in the right places? And I think that's probably one of the biggest things that I find is most people don't put themselves in the right place. They go, well, I always do this. Well, that's probably a bad thing to do then. If it's not giving you the result you want, stop doing it always. So it's not about saying, I want all these people out of my life. It's about saying, can I start bringing some new people in? So I might attend a different function than I typically attend. I have a program that I started 6 years ago called Next Level by Association. How do you get to your next level? By associating with the right people. Next Level by Association, I host once a month. I host a private dinner for members only, and I bring in a guest of honor, somebody that is from my personal Rolodex, and that person just shares their story, how they got to where they're at. It's not about teaching. It's not about, selling or speaking. It's really about developing an association. The members of that community are there for one thing. They don't pass out business cards. It's not a networking event. It's about building relationship currency with each other. When you start putting yourself in places, and some people always say, well, Bob, it's because I'm so uncomfortable. I don't feel like doing that. Good. The more uncomfortable, probably the better. So I say, put yourself in different places, put yourself in different environment, and ask this question. If I wanted to be successful in physiology and finances and business, where do the most successful people in that genre, where do they hang out? Where do they associate? Where do they spend their time? And then be there. It's a simple process, but guess what? I know very few people who do it, and those that do it typically are masters at what they do.
Yeah, I love that. And I think it's important to think about all areas of your life because, it could be in business, it could be in family, or it could be you want to be a foodie all of a sudden. So where do those people hang out? Join a meetup, or there's a meetup, I think, for everything. So meetup.com, you can go and you go to the networking group for business and if these are your people or not.
Right.
Wait,
right.
This isn't the level I need. I need to go to a different place. Right. So then you move to the other networking group or a BNI or even higher than that and do a different one that's paid, that's more paid. So, there's a lot of stuff.
Yeah. In Connectology, which is another course I have and another book being written right now, but in Connectology, what I teach people is, and in my Entrepreneur Association, I teach this principle of having a criteria. What's your criteria? So like before you go to a networking event, ask what is your criteria. So with my members, I walk them through a process that helps them develop what's a criteria for their client, not an avatar. An avatar is age range, volume, dollar volume, all that kind of stuff. I'm talking criteria. So I have 6 criteria for a client of mine. One of those is open-minded, because I don't do things the same way everyone else does. I need them to be open-minded. So when I go to a networking event, I have questions that help me identify each of those 6 criteria for my clients, so that I'm asking the best questions. You brought it up earlier about asking better questions. I believe that the quality of your connection will be determined by the quality of questions you ask. And so when you ask better questions, you get better answers. So when I walk into a networking event, I'm armed like a quiver. I'm armed with 6 questions that'll help me identify 6 criteria that I have for a client. Because if I'm talking to somebody and they don't match all 6, they're not a potential client. See, these are non-negotiable criteria. So when I talk to somebody, if I'm wanting to know if they're open-minded, I may just ask a simple question. I meet you at a networking event. I say, hey, Jen, nice to meet you. Do you mind if I ask you a different question than what everybody else asks you? Guess what? They always say, yeah, yes, please do. They don't want the same question. So I say, here's the question. Jen, when was the last time you did something for the very first time? Now, how she answers that is going to help me determine whether she's a potential client or not. She may say, it's been a long time because I'm a creature of habit. I like to do things always. Well, guess what? If that's her answer, the odds of her being a very good client for me are probably not going to be very good because I want open-minded. I want them to be able to do things differently, right?
Right.
If she says, yesterday I went to this meeting that I never would ever go to before, but I decided, I'm going to do something new. Guess what? She's identifying herself as somebody that possibly could be a good client. Ask better questions, develop a criteria, ask the questions that help you identify the criteria when you go to a networking event or anything else, and you will be better off.
Awesome. Love that.
Let's go a little into the things, or the things that take you to the next level, the 30 things that take you to the next level. So we just have a little bit more time left. So give us your top 3 to 5, maybe just 3 that someone could implement to take their lives to the next level, or business, or part of their life.
I think the first thing is we've already talked about association. Who are you associating with? Surrounding yourself with the right people. The second thing is mastering your inner game. You've got to develop mastering your psychology, mastering that inner game. A third thing is, I think that when we look at some of the principles, one would be doing things consistently and persistently. I find so often that people just go, well, I tried that. Okay, well, I took a shower yesterday too. Doesn't mean I'm not going to take one today. We've got to get to the point where we start realizing that this is not an once in a lifetime, or that we do it for a little while and then we stop. It's a consistent and persistent basis. So it's not what we do once in a while, it's what we do consistently and persistently that will give us our next level result. So I ask people, monitor and measure what it is that you're doing that's working, and then rinse and repeat and increase intensity. Develop some emotional currency behind that. That would be probably another thing that I would say is develop emotional currency. People tend to do things without emotional currency, tend to get worse results than those that have emotional currency. If I told you, Melanie, I want you to pick up 5 new clients by the end of this month, and you said, I'm all in, and I said, great, now I want you to do it, or one of your children is going to die. You will become even more all in. Yeah. Because you become emotionally current and you become emotionally connected to the outcome, and now you've got a higher level of emotional currency. I get told all the time, Bob, I'm doing everything I possibly can to increase my sales, to have a better relationship, to have better health, doing everything I possibly can. I say, really? If I told you that one of your family members was going to die if you didn't increase even a little bit more, would you do more? Well, yes. Well, then you weren't doing everything you possibly could before. Because the answer would be no even then.
Yeah, the game totally changes. All of a sudden your mind thinks, all right, I have to do this. What else can I do? Because you're in that box. I got to get it done no matter what. And your mind starts to try and find the answer and the solution to getting those 5 clients.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think that happens. And I find myself doing that. Like, okay, I've got to get this done, but I don't have that urgent click to think outside of the box and do whatever it takes to do that.
Right. Yeah, creating a sense of urgency is one of the #1 things. I always say that procrastination and fear will always take a backseat to a greater sense of urgency. Mm-hmm. Procrastination and fear will always take a backseat to a greater sense of urgency. It's about developing that emotional sense of urgency about whatever it is that we're going to do that will help us get better results, which will actually help us get to our next level sooner rather than later.
Love that. Bob, tell us where people can find you.
They can go to everything.
Contact you.
Okay, everythingnextlevel.com is my website. You can go there. Everythingnextlevel.com is both a personal and professional website for people to reach their next level, personal and professional. We have our courses on there. They can call in a number if they want to, 949-542-6398, 949-542-6398. Both of those, or on Facebook. Go in and look at, I've got a page on Facebook, Bob Donnell, and there's lots of content there, lots of information there, and I'd love to stay connected with people.
And tell us a little bit about, because you ask such great questions and you're a wonderful mentor and you do get results for people. What is a way that you offer? You offer a membership site. Tell us a little bit about that in case someone's interested and wants to join.
Awesome. I have what's called Next Level Entrepreneur Association. And the coolest thing about that is it's not always an entrepreneur. It might be somebody who's, works for a company, but they've got an entrepreneurial mindset. They want to achieve better results. What I do is I host a weekly group coaching call for those people. It's laser focused, so there's not a lot of story. Sometimes you get on a coaching call and they're talking forever. It's very focused. And then we also do 4 times a year that they have access to a mastermind. So they can either come here personally or they can be on, we have an online platform where they can participate from wherever they're at. But it allows them to actually encompass and embody their greatest challenge, and then we laser focus how we help them move past that challenge. So it's a simple process. I mean, it's online. You can take a look at it. I do have an offer for people to sign up for it for different than what's online. So just reach out to admin@everythingnextlevel.com, admin@everythingnextlevel.com, and we can get you a special code because you'll save money right off the bat.
Terrific. Thank you. We appreciate that for our viewers, for everybody out there. That sounds great.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Bob. And we hope to see you soon and talk to you soon. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. And remember to like this broadcast, share it. There's so much great content that he just gave today. I mean, this is things that can take you to the next level. If you're a business person, an entrepreneur, a parent, I'm going to use tons of this stuff on my kids, let alone my business. So you can use it for all aspects of your life. So make sure you share it to others so everyone can be phenomenal. So tune in next time. And make sure you like and share and pass it on. And we'll see you on our next podcast.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you.
For more information about us, go to eliteonlinepublishing.com. To get your free book, The Accomplishment and Success Story Starter, simply text your name and email to 832-572-5285. That's 832-572-5285. We'd also like to thank Audible for supporting Elite Expert Insider. To get your free 30-day trial, please go to bit.ly/Elite Audible. That's bit.ly/Elite Audible and get your free 30-day trial to show your support. Thank you, Audible.